Hey there, wake up. It's Means Morning News. Just after 11 a.m. on the East Coast here in Washington, D.C., I'm the newsman, Sam Sachs. Good morning to everyone. It's the Friday show, the one day of the week that the boss lets me dress more casually. Yeah, I know it doesn't look like it with the tie and all, but you don't know what I'm wearing under the desk. Basketball shorts. I'm wearing basketball shorts. And we begin with a new report that highlights one of the most serious economic problems in the United States. Workers are not earning enough wages to afford the most basic thing, a place to live. According to the National Low Income Housing Coalition, the average individual now has to work more than 100 hours a week just to earn enough income to afford a 2-bedroom apartment rental. 100 hours a week. The group looked at average rents across the country and determined that in order to have enough money to afford a 2-bedroom apartment and other necessities, the average worker needs to earn over $28 an hour. And that's on average. In some states, it's way more. In New York, you need to earn more than $40 an hour. In Florida, it's over $30 an hour. In California, it's more than $42 an hour. The current federal minimum wage is just $7.25 an hour. There's not a single state in the country that offers a minimum wage that would allow workers to afford a 2-bedroom apartment working just 40 hours a week. And 50% of workers in the country don't earn enough during a 40-hour week to even afford rent for a 1-bedroom apartment, which requires on average a wage of more than $23 an hour. Bootlickers for capital like to claim that younger generations can't afford homes because they're spending too much money on avocado toast and shit. But no, it's because the ownership class's declining rate of profit over the last few decades has forced it to more aggressively exploit workers, to a point now that wages aren't even enough to put a roof over their employees' heads. This is an untenable situation. And to learn more about what happens next, read Marx. News coming out of the West Coast, there are reports that port owners and longshoremen are nearing an agreement on a new labor contract that could put an end to long simmering tensions on the docks. The International Longshore and Warehouse Union said a tentative agreement has been reached on a new 6-year agreement. No details have been released yet, and the deal would still need to be ratified by rank-and-file union members, a process that could take months. The union said in a statement, quote, "While the final decision is up to our members, we feel our time at the bargaining table was well spent and that the agreement represents the hard work of our rank-and-file and the sacrifices they made during the pandemic." Negotiations have been ongoing for over a year now, with workers demanding higher wages from the shipping companies that have seen a huge boost in profits in recent years. Ongoing labor strife led to slowdowns at the Port of Seattle. Last weekend, Acting Labor Secretary Julie Su reportedly played a role in negotiating the new agreement. There is, though, still the possibility of a port strike on the West Coast, as ILWU members in Canada, including at the critical port of Vancouver, authorized a strike this week as contract talks sputter. The earliest a work stoppage can begin is June 24th. And finally, some real sick stuff coming out of Harvard. The former morgue manager at the school was just indicted in a conspiracy to sell human remains. The indictment against Cedric Lodge, who was fired in May, alleges that he, quote, stole dissected portions of donated cadavers, including heads, brains, skin, bones, and other human remains, without the knowledge or permission of the school, and removed those remains from the morgue in Massachusetts and transported them to his residence in New Hampshire. Lodge is then accused of conspiring with his wife to sell the remains. Now, it's pretty common for human remains to be donated to medical schools for educational purposes, but they're typically returned to the family afterward. Universities, though, are developing a pretty bad reputation of collecting and mishandling remains that aren't even being used for medical purposes, particularly Ivy League schools. A report last year found that Harvard was defying federal law and holding onto the remains of enslaved people and thousands of Native Americans. In February, Cornell University finally agreed to return ancestral remains to the Oneida Indian Nation after holding onto them for decades after they were dug up during a construction project. The school has been holding onto the remains since the 1960s. Dartmouth College also found to be holding onto remains belonging to Native Americans, and the same is true of Yale. Then there's this story from last year about the University of Pennsylvania from The Guardian. Quote, the University of Pennsylvania is moving ahead with the reburial of the cranial remains of at least 13 Black Philadelphians whose skulls have been kept for almost 2 centuries in a notorious anthropological collection used to justify white supremacy in the run-up to the U.S. Civil War. What the fuck? Honestly, none of this is all that surprising when you also consider the close ties between the CIA and the Ivy League. I mean, Harvard basically created the Unabomber when they MK Ultra'd Ted Kaczynski in the 1950s. But this is getting out of control. I believe there's only one course of action left here. Abolish the Ivy League. The World Bank is urging governments to end fossil fuel subsidies that are leading to planetary destruction. A new report from the organization estimated that governments are spending a total of $7 trillion every year on inefficient subsidies that are fueling climate change and ruin. And that's not just on boosting fossil fuel use, but also on agricultural and fishing practices that aren't sustainable. That $7 trillion total includes direct financial support amounting to about $1.25 trillion, and then what are described as implicit subsidies, or the damages and externalities caused by these practices, which totals more than $6 trillion. Reading from the report, quote, agriculture subsidies are responsible for the loss of 2.2 million hectares of forest per year, or 14% of global deforestation. Fossil fuel usage, incentivized by subsidies, is a key driver of the 7 million premature deaths each year due to air pollution. Fisheries subsidies, which exceed $35 billion each year, are a key driver of dwindling fish stocks, oversized fishing fleets, and falling profitability. Countries are currently spending 6 times more money on fossil fuel subsidies than on commitments to lower carbon emissions under the Paris Climate Agreement. The report called on governments to divert the trillions in harmful subsidies toward initiatives that promote clean energy development. Of course, that will require governments that aren't purchased by those same extractive industries.
My whole life changed when that little kid was born. I'm a dad now. I never wanted kids. Before Damien, I was running wild.
You eating? Your pancakes? Oh, come kiss. Give me a kiss. Give me a kiss.
That's right, motherfuckers, on baby talk to my kid. He loves it. I gave you a bite.
Take a picture?
Yeah, he take a picture. Thank you. Look at the fucking clusters on this. Look at it.
I didn't like who I had seen when I looked in the mirror. I gave myself a facelift. On the day his mother walked out, I took his little hand and I did a little dab like that. And I said, don't worry about it, I got you. Daddy will always, always got you. And I've kept my word. Damien, when it rains, it rains. That's why I don't live in Seattle, 'cause it rains too much over there. Yes, it does.
Good afternoon. afternoon, my fellow degenerates.
No, you're not that tough. Come here. Hey.
You get what's going on? I'm gonna take care of you, okay?
You got some more of those nice, sexy ground lichens.
If you don't love a frying a soma, you're an asshole. This really hurts. I have to put the camera down for a minute. Fucurious splendens. I just want to take a couple money shots, that's all. Like an angry boomer that watches too much Fox News, huh? Cops are always looking for drugs. Probably one of the most heinous smells. All right, I should probably get in. All right, that's all I got for today. Why don't you have a nice time? Why don't you sit down, make yourself a sandwich, drink a cup of coffee? All right, read something, okay? Go fuck yourself, bye.
Gotta admit, the Rich Dick intro music, it kind of bops. It's kind of a bop. All right, let's get down to business. Thanks for the nominations on social media. We got one here for Peter Thiel, not for any particular reason, just a general principle thing because he is one of the worst rich guys in the game today. Always good to remind ourselves of that. I guess here's a good reason, though. The senator who Thiel bankrolled, J.D. Vance, this week weakened a new railway safety bill at the behest of chemical company lobbyists. Clever News reporting that one out. We also got a nomination for Oprah. No particular reason given, but hey, I'm open to it. Thanks for these suggestions, but there was a clear favorite from the nominating masses. And so this week's Rich Dick is Oakland A's owner John Fisher. Yeah, we covered his exploits earlier in the week, but you all demanded that we return to it, so here we are. Just a quick recap, Fisher is currently trying to move the A's out of Oakland because the city won't buy him a new stadium. He convinced lawmakers in Nevada to raise almost $400 million in public funds to build him a new one in Las Vegas, much to the dismay of fans in Oakland. For this, Fisher got nominated several times. Here's one from Jose. Quote, John Fisher, Nepo billionaire, just fleeced Nevada of almost $400 million on a new stadium for a team he never invests in and actually leeches from other owners through revenue sharing. Yes, all this is true. Fisher is a Nepo billionaire. His parents started Gap. And it's true, he never invests in the team. Every season, the A's are among the lowest payroll teams in the league. Rather than generating profit through fielding a good team and putting people in the stadium to watch it, Fisher gets profit by keeping payroll low and enjoying revenue sharing from other baseball teams. Fisher's payroll cost cutting is pretty notorious. He was the only team owner who decided in 2020 that the organization would not pay their minor league players for the remainder of the COVID-affected season. Only after a significant backlash did Fisher give in and agree to a $400 a week stipend. His mistreatment of minor leaguers went viral when pictures were shared of what meals the organization provided to players after the game, and they made Firefest look like a Michelin star restaurant. What is it, fajitas night in that second picture? Also during the pandemic, Fisher slashed the pay of back office employees of the organization. All of this happened while he saw his own wealth skyrocket by $1 billion between 2020 and 2021, according to Forbes. Here's another nomination we got for Fisher from Sunny Phone Show. Quote, it's John Fisher, no doubt. Got to cover his Nepo baby status going all the way back. The fact that his stadium aspirations in Oakland was targeted as a real estate scam, and give Manfred a shout for carrying his water. The A's belong to Oakland. Yes, as I mentioned, he's the heir to the Gap fortune. He's also responsible for getting the family involved in environmental destruction. San Francisco Gate reported that after taking over the family portfolio, Fisher started a timber business. Quote, John Fisher did indeed take over the family portfolio, a consequential decision that came to a head in 1998, shortly after the family formed the investment group Sandstone Partners. That year, the Fisher family, under John's direction, bought about 235,000 acres of redwood and fir timberland in Northern California from Louisiana Pacific Corporation. Well, that decision sparked protests by environmentalists against the family, and its new business venture, Clear Cutting Forests. At the same time, while Fisher was overseeing Gap, the store got sued for human rights violations for using sweatshops in the North Mariana Islands. The San Francisco Gate noted, quote, human rights activists joined environmental activists and protested in front of Gap stores all over the world. One protester chained herself to the front of a store on 34th Street in Manhattan. Another got a hold of the family's address and splashed black paint on the walls of their home. Everywhere Fisher goes, he tries to maximize profits by pissing off as many people as he can. And I'm glad Sunny Phone Show brought up Rob Manfred, commissioner of baseball, who is giving Fisher cover for screwing over the Oakland fan base. During an interview this week, Manfred blamed the city of Oakland for the relocation. He said, quote, the real question is, what is it Oakland was prepared to do? There is no Oakland offer, okay? They never got to a point where they had a plan to build a stadium at any site, and it's not just John Fisher. The community has to provide support. Well, that's a lie. Oakland made several offers to Fisher about a new stadium. The Oakland mayor's office immediately pushed back on the claim and said in a statement, quote, there was a very concrete proposal under discussion, and Oakland had gone above and beyond to clear hurdles, including securing funding for infrastructure, providing an environmental review, and working with other agencies to finalize proposals. The reality is, the A's ownership had insisted on a multi-billion-dollar 55-acre project that included a ballpark, residential, commercial, and retail space. Yeah, not only did Fisher want a new stadium, he also wanted to be a damn landlord, which is probably why he was also nominated this week by Rona. What'd you think? I was going to forget all the damn landlords? Not a chance. Look, we've covered a lot of shitty sports owners on this show, and even on this particular segment. But John Fisher might be the worst. He refuses to invest in a team that fans feel is worth going to games to see, and then throws a tantrum when those same fans don't want to be on the hook for billions of dollars to build a new stadium to make him even wealthier. What a scumbag. John Fisher, this week's Rich Dick. All right, gang, the show ends this morning with a sunrise from Texas. It was sent in by union member Nick in Houston. Enjoy. Thank you, Nick. That's the show. Thanks for watching, and thanks to the team behind the scenes. If you haven't yet, please subscribe to Means TV. There's a 7-day free trial going on right now. Also, follow our YouTube and podcast channels. One day, capitalism's gonna fall. I promise. Just be patient. Until then, we'll be right here. See you next week.